Hey everybody, it's been 2 weeks since we recorded a podcast and I've already forgotten how it works, which is
Awesome.
good. I've been listening to the, if this isn't narcissistic, tell me what is, but I've been listening to the Sterling and Stone podcast network exclusively.
I've been listening to all those podcasts too.
I've subscribed to those podcasts. That's a really good podcast network, I'm just saying.
It's pretty awesome. I like this week's interview with Andy Weir.
That was fantastic. Anybody, 8 questions, the interview with Andy Weir. Look for 8 questions on iTunes. Good stuff. Really like Andy. And I really liked that interview because he was, I don't know, it's just a different Andy than we got on the podcast.
Well, he's so relaxed. He's so casual. Like he's just a guy. He's just, you wouldn't know that he has such a huge movie in the theaters and that he's had all this success. Like he's a great guy.
Yes. All right. Look at that. We already ran out of things to say.
I'm tweeting that the show is on. You know, never to rely on me in the beginning of the show.
It's terrible.
I have I have something cool. It's actually from a few weeks ago. But I thought this was kind of neat, and it is truly something cool. I don't know if it's something like strategically advantageous yet or anything like that. But Book Track, Sean.
Oh yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, so we got a contact from a company called Book Track, which actually Jay Thorne told us about. Having lunch with Jay next week, and what they do is they create a soundtrack for your book, which sounds weird. And I even said when I replied, because she contacted us and she was like, "Oh, we'd like to do this," and I was kind of like, "Yeah, I got enough going on." And she said, "Well, can we just make a demo chapter?" And so I said, "Sure, knock yourself out." And when she sent it to me, and then I sent it on to Sean, and the tone of Sean's email was, "Yeah, this is actually pretty cool. I wouldn't have thought it would be." And then I listened to it, and I had exactly the same reaction, where I was like, "Yeah, I was really not expecting this to make any sense at all." But I
was expecting it to be pretty stupid. No offense to Book Track at all. I don't need a soundtrack to reading.
It just seems like an odd concept.
It interrupts the humming in my head.
But I will say, after listening to it, I actually wouldn't want to read this way, but I can totally see how somebody would, and how it's really cool. There's a car door opening, and there's just sound effects for the things that are happening in the book.
But it's eerie how well they're synced.
Yeah.
And the only thing I can figure is you read in the app, or in this case, I read on the website, and you can change your reading speed, but I guess they have an average reading speed, and so there's only so much on the page at a time, and it must have an ambient background that it doesn't matter where the seams are, and then the sound effects must be placed 4 seconds after this page is flipped or something. But it's amazing how I would be reading about the gunshot and you hear the gunshot right
yeah. Right. That was pretty cool. Again, I feel like it detracts from my own imagination. So where on the other hand, if you're listening to an audio production, well, I guess it depends on the production. So I'm listening to Dune right now because Johnny's been wanting me to read Dune for the entire time we've been working together, and so it only took me 3 years, and I finally have Dune. And it's a full-on podium level production where they've got 31 narrators or something for the book. But I was listening to it this morning, and it's not just that they have other narrators. I'm like, is that wind? Is that sand blowing in the background? There's all these sound effects happening, and it's a little much. It's a little distracting. I like what Podium does, where it just they really put all the effort on the performances, and that's really cool. But a lot of other stuff can just distract me. I'm actually distracted from what the people are saying because I'm listening to wind howling in the background. But I do think it's a really cool concept, and I hope it catches on because it's just yet one more way for indie authors to kind of get their work out there and let people enjoy it in a different way.
Book Track just sent us that for this podcast.
I presented as something cool, something interesting, and the one I was warring between that and we didn't talk about there's only so much we can talk about, of course, because it's Fight Club, but we just had our event. It was screwed up because Sean was really happy last week. He had a great week last week. So.
Last
I forgot
week
about that. We haven't even talked about any of that. Oh, it's been 3 weeks. That's why, because we were in Austin, and then you.
Yeah, so we haven't been here for 3 weeks. Last week was I don't get sick often. Like if I get like I can get run down a little bit and I'll be down for a day, but I was actually out for like a week, and it was miserable. This is the opposite of something cool. But I dropped Johnny off at the airport on Monday after our table event. And then I hung out with Garrett, and that might have been what ruined me, actually.
The fact that you hung out with Garrett?
Yeah, a few hours with Garrett. Did you? But I dropped Garrett off, and then I drove home, and I told my family was asking me about well how was it, because I hadn't really seen them for a few days, even though I stayed at my house.
We're talking about the Stone Table Mastermind. I don't know that we've actually said that. So you're like, what was going on?
So we were at the Stone Table Mastermind, and it was in Austin, but I was leaving the house really early. I was coming home really late, so my family hadn't really seen me. And I sat down to dinner, and they asked me how it was, and I told them a story, and it was about one of the hot seats, and it was kind of an emotional story, and I started to cry, and like that's like there was my emotions did not match like how I was actually feeling. Like I was just too overly emotional, and it didn't really make sense. And I'm trying to collect myself, and I'm like, why am I acting so emotional right now? This doesn't make sense.
I need to go take a bubble bath.
And then I went into I went to bed like an hour and a half later, and I was shaking. I was just trembling. I was super hot and super cold. I was just done. And then the next day I was ruined, and the day after, and I'm like, no, all I've done is exhaust myself. I'll be back, because my throat actually started hurting on Friday, but I assumed it's because I was talking all day. Like Johnny and I actually walked like 12 miles in one day and just had story meetings while walking, and Dave got the chills just now. I saw it. He was like, whoa.
That's standing Dave right there. Give him some respect.
And so, but it turns out, anyway, I thought, I can muscle through this, I'll be fine. But then on Wednesday, I realized, okay, I have to surrender. I have to go to the doctor. And turns out I had a really bad case of strep. And so I was just down for the count. I had to.
They were considering shooting him. That's how bad it was. They were like, I can't let this go any further.
Right in the face. So
that was when he just walked in. To be fair.
So anyway, I'm much better now. My something cool is.
I thought that was your something cool.
That was my opposite of something cool. My something cool is a new show on Netflix. Again, I think anytime I see one of those, I could do that's a something cool. But it's called Narcos, and it's about Pablo Escobar. And I don't know if it's actually, there's a book that I read, I don't know, 10 years ago or something, called Killing Pablo. Which is by Mark Bowden, the guy who wrote Black Hawk Down, and it's really, really good. It's all about finding Pablo and all this crazy stuff that happens. In the 80s when he was like one of the richest men in the world. They were making $60 million a week selling cocaine, and I don't know if this is based on that at all. I don't think so, but it's the same material, and it's really interesting the way Netflix does it. The color stock is just kind of old, like it looks like the 80s, and they slip in every once in a while some old footage, and it's kind of got like a real authentic documentary feel, even though it's not a documentary. And it's really good. I've seen the whole season now. And I don't imagine it could have more than one more season. Like there's just not that much story to tell, and it seems like they've told a lot of it. But it's all about how Pablo, basically created this empire, and then how he controlled the government. So one of my favorite parts, this is it, and then I'll move on. But they finally backed him into a corner where he had to surrender, and he's like, okay, I'll surrender, but I get to build my own jail. And so he built his own jail, and it's just like he's got like roulette tables in there, and they bring hookers in all the time. And the government was so powerless to stop him. They just basically had to say, okay, Pablo, do whatever you're gonna do. And it's just kind of a crazy story, especially because it's true.
I'm waiting for the Netflix series on Frank Kern.
Oh, that is that coming out?
Yeah, I'm writing it.
I'll write that with you.
Okay.
So do you have something cool?
Yeah, I had a great week too.
Let's hear about your week. Is this an opposite of something cool or an actual something cool?
Well, my cat died on the Sunday of the summit. And then on the following Tuesday, I went to the hospital thinking I was going to die. So that was my something. I'm alive. That's my something cool.
Is the third Walking Dave about you thinking you're going to die? Because The Walking Dave is my favorite new podcast. Because the first one,
He's in the car.
There's something poetic about this. The first Walking Dave is the sitting Dave. Like the first one is like, it's the debut episode, and here I am in my car sitting down. And then the second one is a real uplifting piece. His cat.
I haven't heard the second one.
Is the third one going to be the one where you think you're going to die?
Yes, they're going to become increasingly more depressing.
So are you hoping that no one listens to this, or are you just
He's trying to scare people off. Welcome to the Convalescent Dave.
Is this like the first 10 pages of Write, Publish, Repeat, where you're like basically trying to say who this isn't for?
It's my singing chapter, The Being.
Awesome.
No, I had super high blood pressure and went to the hospital, and they ran all these scans and found that I am human. Basically, right now, my blood pressure is still high. They put me on some. I went to a new doctor because my old doctor was
Did you request anal probing?
Yes, they don't do that anymore. They said some guy named Sean ruined it for everyone. So
what an asshole!
That was you. So yeah, they gave me new medication, and now I'm walking every single day, several times a day, simply so I don't die. So yay! And I'm also standing. So
yeah,
Dawn of the Dave. He's standing. He's like, let's do Walking Dave twice a week. Fuck it. And he was like, I don't even know. You were recording Smarter Artist episodes. I'm telling you.
No, he was like, we were saying, okay, we need to get Dave to get some Smarter Artist episodes in there, and he's like, I already put 10 in there. And
well, here's the thing: 6 of those recorded blank, so I have to fucking redo them. And by the way, that's what got me sick in the beginning, because on Monday I was all ready to go to sleep, and I saw the note from Amy saying we need some, and I had already put
Amy, if you're paying attention, this is your fault.
Yeah, so I stayed up several hours to get this done. Then I was already up, so I said, well, I may as well just fucking stay up. And then all of a sudden I'm up 21, 22 hours or something, and that's what knocked me out. So I'm still sick from it, but thanks, Amy.
All right,
Amy, you're a terrible person is what Dave's trying to say.
That is good stuff. So just in case you thought that was going to be a good story, that's where it got bad right there. All right, well, today we're going to be talking about product funnels, so Dave has vowed to just not even pay attention.
Now.
But before we get to the product funnels, I'll just mention that as this airs, when this airs, the following Monday is when the Kickstarter campaign for Story Shop will go live, which is super exciting. So that's actually 10th, 11th, 12th, that's the 17th? No, 19th of October.
Yeah.
Is when it will go live, and there'll be, we'll have early bird discounts and all that. So if you want to make sure that you hear about it, sterlingandstone.net/storyshop, and that'll put you in the list.
One note on this app too. The more we talk about it, the more exciting it gets. But this isn't just a case of you'll get, if you fund it, you'll get early access and special discounts and all of that. If it's not funded, it will not get made. It's an expensive
right, we're not making it either way. This is a market test too. If we don't fund it, then there's no point in making it.
Right, because this is not a simple app. It's an app that will require a full development team, a substantial amount of time to build. So it needs funding, and if it doesn't get funded, we will not have the app.
Sean, you didn't respond in Slack, so did you see the story I wrote about Austin in there?
Yes, I thought that was really cool. Why don't you tell that story?
Yeah, so really briefly, we up until last week, I didn't even really get what Story Shop was. I was like, okay, we're having an app, and it helps you plan stories and better stories faster, but I never really got the idea of how it would work. And Seth, our developer, who will be on next week, so if you're live, it'll literally be 45 minutes from now, but if you're listening on the feed, like most of you, the next week's show will be Seth Atwood, the lead developer on Story Shop, and he delivered some wireframe sketches for us this week. Not sketches, but mock-ups, where there's one for a pane in the app that's for characters, one that's for settings and sort of world elements, and then one that's for the beats, where you actually plan the outline. And so I was like, and we had a hangout where we discussed those. And we shared those. We screen shared them. Actually, let me give that link. That's sterlingandstone.net/storyshop preview, all one word. So it's Story Shop preview for the video and just Story Shop to get on the early notification list. Anyway, so I've been getting it, and I wrote sales copy this week, and so I was really excited about it, and I shared it over dinner, and I was showing those 3 to my family because we've been talking about the app. And little backstory: my son Austin is very artistic, and he's quite good for an 11-year-old. His illustration, and he's had this thing, like this epic thing. He wants to do this video game, and it's got kind of an amazing story. Like, it kind of blew me away. I know that he's my son, so of course I have to feel that way. But like, I was like, wow, there's a lot of thought went into this, a lot of story behind this, a lot of he had a lot of detail in the characters and all this. And so we've been bugging him to write it down. Like, okay, you need to write this down. He's like, no, it's in my head. I don't want to do that. And he's even in art lessons, and he told the guy about the app, and the guy's like, you got to write it down. And the only way Austin will write anything down at all is if it's assigned as homework. It's just a big...
And only begrudgingly then, right?
Oh, yeah, he hates it. The whole idea of trying to write it down, we're like, you're going to forget. Just even if you dictate voice memos so that you don't forget all these little details, because it's very complicated. And he's been talking about it for years. Well, anyway, after I showed him all this, he starts getting excited, and he's like, can I get access to that when it's up so that I can plan my game? And I just thought that was really kind of cool and validating that we can't get him to do it, but when he saw this app, he was really interested in doing it, in writing this down and creating the characters in the world and everything. So super cool.
Yeah, this is really something. I don't think.
Yeah, that's what he actually said. Before he asked about that, he said, "I'll give you money for it," which I thought was sweet.
Wow,
that is pretty awesome. I think that this really is, when it's done, it will be the best pre-planning story app in the world. I don't think there's anything even close. I have probably 20 assorted apps on the Mac for, that outline or this or that or mind map in various forms. But there's nothing like this. It really is as close to a full solution as we could get.
All right. So just again, if you want to see the stuff we were talking about to get the visual, sterlingandstone.net/story shop preview. And that's to see the video. To get on the list, it's just /story shop. And the Kickstarter launches October 19th, Monday, and you'll want to be there for early bird discounts and all that if you want to help make it a reality. So, all right, before we move on to the topic, I have a special treat.
Oh, wow, brownies?
No, I'm gonna be honest with you. It's the ad read, but
that's not brownies.
It's kind of the opposite of brownies for you, I'm thinking.
Yes.
I'm going to do a rare and possibly definitely unauthorized, possibly unorthodox best of ad read.
Oh,
so
wow.
I went to great pains to find this, so I'm going to replay the ad read, and we just sit here and listen to it. So it's
sweet.
Neat.
I don't have to talk. All right.
Don't have to talk at all. All right. So here we go. Here's the ad read.
Hey, man, it's Ayahuasca Joe, and I just want to say that the one cosmic God, he will take care of everything. He will make everything line up the way it's always supposed to, meant to be. It's your subconscious. It's God working through your subconscious.
Speaking of Ayahuasca Joe, that's astonishing that you brought him up, Dave, because I was just, the other day I was working on my rough draft of my new book, Ayahuasca Joe, and I couldn't figure out what I would do to get a cover for it, because that's a really, really hard cover. So what should I do? I think I'm considering just ditching the manuscript.
I think getting a cover with the Godhead on the front, I think that is of primary importance in when you want a cover that shows the magic that is your book or your Ayahuasca Joe book.
Mm-hmm.
There is only really one place to go.
Where would
that is 99designs.com/SVP.
Do you think that many of the designers are on ayahuasca? Like, can I sort that way? Because I really want somebody who gets my existential vision, man.
Now, I don't want to say that the designers are on drugs or ayahuasca, or because of course ayahuasca isn't a drug. It's a quote natural thing, man, that exists in nature that allows you to connect with God. but their designers are connected to something, to some cosmic creativity that allows them to produce covers that are just phenomenal, that allows them to make these book covers that stand out and show that your book looks like it belongs.
Are they phenomenal enough that you feel that they may have come from the collective unconscious?
They tap into the collective unconscious. And again, I don't want to say that their designers do ayahuasca because, it's probably frowned upon. But they're doing something right. They're doing something right, and they always have that connection to us. When we go there and we say, "Hey, we got this cover idea," and we throw out some random thoughts of what that cover might be, they pull it in from the collective unconscious, and they somehow tap into our brains and come up with a cover that we want, but even better, and it looks professional.
Sean looks very serious over there right now. Do you think he's doing ayahuasca?
I think he is. He's preparing.
No, hold on. I'm going to do some and see if I can get in touch with him. Hold on.
So if you want a book cover without having to pay some shaman a whole bunch of money to do
Sean
ayahuasca,
through the universal unconscious to find out if we can find out.
If you want a phenomenal book cover without the high prices of those shamans and their ayahuasca, because they cost a lot, let me tell you, then go to 99designs.com.
All right, so 99designs.com/SPP. Use that link and you'll get the free ayahuasca power pack upgrade. Ayahuasca not included, unfortunately. It's just a naming convention, which will get your designer, you more designer time, attention, and general connection into the collective unconscious. So that's 99designs.com/SPP. What do you guys think? I'm just going to do that from now on. So we don't actually have to do anything. We'll just
I really hate hearing myself.
Oh, it was
I could tell. You looked like you were in agony the whole entire time. I'm like, does he have to poop?
All right. So on that note, look at that. We just got sponsorship money by pressing a button. I like that. I like this world.
Wait, they pay us for this?
Dude, can you believe that?
I just listened to a Tim Ferriss episode on ayahuasca. It was awesome.
Really? What are his ad reads like? All right.
I think Squarespace sponsors ayahuasca.
All right. So let's move into the topic, which is product funnels. And just as a little bit of background, the reason that I wanted to talk, actually I pitched this one today, is I wanted to talk about this because I've been writing Iterate and Optimize, which is the sequel to Write, Publish, Repeat. I know we said that Fiction Unboxed was the sequel to Write, Publish, Repeat, but that was more like a 1.5. This is really, really turning out to be a true sequel. And it's sort of like what we iterated forward and optimized in our process is sort of what we learned since. And I've been hitting a bunch of different stuff, and so this has been on my mind a lot recently. And so the different way that we approach product funnels today than we did back in the day, I thought would be kind of an interesting topic to hit, because I know we talked about them before with sort of free as a funnel starter. And anyway, so that's the background on it.
Yeah, I'm super excited to get my hands on Iterate and Optimize too. And Johnny keeps putting these teaser paragraphs into Slack, and I can't wait to read it.
So basically, there's a few updates since. I know we just talked about free actually not too long ago. I don't remember whether it was on the current self-publishing podcast. But that was, I think, the biggest thing is we were talking before about a free-based funnel. So we don't want to go into that in depth. But that's what we talked about in Write, Publish, Repeat. Was we called it the Angry Birds model, where you get something that's a free download or a free your free book, and then you buy up to it. And I think if you just go back and listen to that Is Free Still a Viable Strategy podcast, you'll see that we don't like that as much anymore, and we've sort of changed. Well, we don't like it for everything anymore. And Yesterday's Gone currently does have a featured spot on iBooks as free, and so it works for Yesterday's Gone, but we haven't done it for Invasion. So I just wanted to sort of talk out like what are the different kinds of funnels that we use now that we aren't doing that nearly as much.
I think we're really finding that just one size doesn't fit all. Where before, when there was in the Woman's Bride Publish Repeat 2013, right? So we're talking still kind of the early days. Yesterday's Gone was fall of 2011, so this is 2 years after that. But still the early days. The market wasn't nearly as saturated. There weren't nearly as many people out there. People weren't using free, and visibility was way different on free. For sure, and so that's all kind of changed, and you can't just say, well, you need to have a funnel starter, and this is how you do it, and the rules are just more individualized. You really need to look at your catalog and kind of determine this fits in this slot here, instead of just one size fits all, which it's not that one size fit all in 2013, but it was a lot closer to that than what we have now.
Well, this is a good example of tactics versus strategy, which is something we talked a lot about in Write, Publish, Repeat, and we've talked a lot about on the show. And the tactic of a first-in-series free book is sometimes a good idea now and sometimes not as good of an idea, just because of the way that, and just to, again, I don't want to repeat that whole show, but the visibility of free has changed. So, for instance, the top 100 free list is really kind of irrelevant at this point because you have to search for it. And if you have to search for it, that means that it's free seekers largely who are going to get it, and you don't really want free seekers necessarily in your funnel because they're free seekers. And then also bots. Like paid books don't have free books as also bots on Amazon. So that tactic is it comes into question. It's not that it's wrong, but you'd have to ask the question about it. But the strategy of how do you attract a lot of attention and get that into, because a funnel is get a lot of people and then sift them down to the people who are, willing to go deeper and deeper into the funnel. They want to read more of your series. They want to get more invested in you. So the strategy is still the same, and you ask, how do you achieve that same ends if the free book isn't necessarily how you're going to do it? I didn't want to keep going. I thought you might want to...
No. By all means. I think Dave disappeared, too.
Okay, so I should keep going. So, for us, the podcast is a large part of that. If you don't have a podcast, then that's not going to be relevant. We've talked a lot about the Indie Fiction podcast, which will be part of our fiction funnel. And as far as our nonfiction funnels, the Sterling and Stone FM podcast network is a large part of that. And I'm only mentioning that. I know that isn't applicable to most of you, but it is the same. Like, it's to illustrate the concept. Like, how do we get? But
it's a big funnel starter for us.
And it's free. It is free.
Right, and it took us several years before we were in a position where we could do something like that. So, most authors, if they were to try and do something like that, it would probably have, kind of minute returns. So it's not a matter of doing what we're doing. It's a matter of looking at your skill level, your time available, your catalog, your genre, and kind of, making your own cocktail and thinking, okay, this is how I can get a lot of eyes. So at the beginning of the show, for Johnny Something Cool, he talked about book track, right? Maybe you have some kind of book that is, really in some way just really lends itself to kind of an oral landscape in that way. And maybe getting your book up on book track and making it free is a great way to get people into your funnel. Maybe not. Maybe you have a memoir, and that would be a really dumb way to get people into your funnel. But the point is, there's a lot of different points of entry for an author to find new readers. And, Wattpad. Personally, I have not found any success with Wattpad, but I know there are a lot of authors who have, and it's another free place to get. Now, I think the main problem with Wattpad is just a conversion issue. A lot of people who are reading on Wattpad are just looking for cheap free reads, and so maybe if you have the right serial with the right hook, you could get people there. A podcast does work for nonfiction audiences better than fiction audiences. It's just a matter of how can you start out that funnel and reach the highest number of people on a free basis, and then just kind of thin the herd from there, so you're getting them into your actual offers. Because you also don't want to train people really early on that you're not worth paying for, because that's really difficult to recover from as well.
I think
So
most of our audience that have found us for Yesterday's Gone, found us when the book was free or it was on sale super cheap. I mean, I heard that a lot from people that emailed me, and I think it's difficult to stand out when you're free, but if you can find a way, then it definitely helps you. Especially
yeah,
if you have like a series or something where you really hook the reader.
yeah, I don't think that the message here should be don't make your book free. I think the message is don't just make your book free. Like that probably can't be your strategy. So one of the things, and I'm just kind of looking at my iterate and optimize outline because I've just thought out a lot of this. But if your book is just free, it used to be enough to just make it free. So Dave said, a lot of people found Yesterday's Gone when it was free. Totally true. But self-publishing years, and it isn't quite as effective today, at least on Amazon. And so if you just make your book free, that doesn't work as well as if you, like in general, when we make something free, it's with a strategy in mind, and we want to send traffic to it. You want to advertise your book for free. If you can get a free ad on Bookbub, or even just something like ebookbooster.com, which will submit you to all these different sites, or Pixel of Ink if they happen to pick you up, like those are really, really good ways to use free because there's you're actually getting out there and you're actually putting them in front of people. But the whole idea of first book being free as automatic is definitely no longer a case. We also like the idea of temporary free better than perma free. And again, not to recapitulate that entire episode, but being able to sort of flash to free is generally maybe a better way. But I guess I'm taking the roundabout path here, but I guess the bottom line is that our focus in terms of funnel has been list building. Because if you can build your list, you can use a free book to build that list. So you're essentially still giving away a free book. You're still offering people a no friction entry into your world. But then you have control of those people. You can send them down an autoresponder chain. You have access to their inbox.
Well, it's that thing we keep talking about too. If you want to eliminate the need for a Bookbub, because Bookbub, that's a place where you have to ask permission. They're either going to take you or they're not. But if you have a large enough list, you don't need a Bookbub.
Right. And we actually use a free book to get people into our list, both at Collective Inkwell and Realm and Sands. We will add that to our other lines. But basically, I mean, I feel like I'm monopolizing the conversation, but I guess I should just keep going, right?
Well, that's okay because our connections aren't even reliable, so
okay.
That works.
I'm the only one that for sure will record.
Yes. And you're also the one who's been knee deep in it because you've totally rewritten Realm and Sands autoresponder. You're moving Smart Artists over to Active Campaign. You get this stuff on a very instinctive, fundamental level. So that's fine anyway.
All right. So yeah. So we have put more attention into list building rather than just saying first book free, and it has been a major focus. It's actually I was listening back to something. I want to say it was an old podcast episode, and we stated ambitious goals for lists, and we have dropped off of that. I actually mean to check with Garrett about our list building ads, because I feel like we want to pump more people into our list, and we just haven't been enough.
Yeah, I actually know what you're talking about. It's the first or second episode of the 2.0 SPPs, and we talk about that. And we really have dropped off. But another one of our initiatives that we were talking about that I think people would be interested to know are contests, where contests are a great list builder. And then there are a couple things you have to do with that. You definitely have to make sure that you're getting the right people on your list with a contest, because if you just have if you're giving away a $50 gift card and you've got a bunch of people on your list and all they want is the gift card, they have no interest in what you've read, then that list is actually hurting you more than it's helping you, because your open rates will suffer, your click-throughs will suffer, and that will atrophy your list. So you absolutely don't want to do that. If you're getting a bunch of people on your list through a contest, then you want to trim the tribe pretty quickly, make sure that they're interested in what you have. to offer. So it's very possible you'll get way, way, way more people on your list than you need, or that you ideally want, because you really want the right people on your list. And just make sure that you're sending them to offers that are relevant to what you will eventually be trying to sell them, so that they're clicking on those links. And if people aren't clicking on those links, if you have somebody who just came in your contest for the gift card, and they don't open any of your emails, the next 7 emails that you send, make sure that you get them off of your list, so they're not part of that, because otherwise it's decay.
All right, so let's drill down a little bit. I'll give you sort of the way that we do this at Realm and Sans, because I don't know the CI way, although I'm guessing it's probably pretty similar. So the way that we've been doing this is there's 4 basic ways that we're building lists through our books. So the most popular series that we have right now at Realm and Sans is Invasion, and we actually got this strategy from Nick Stevenson, the idea of putting the call to action in the front of the book and at the end of the book to get the sequel in the first book. So here's what I mean by that. People, Invasion sells quite regularly, and if we run promotions on it, we'll get a crap ton of purchases. Like if we do a 99-cent sale, we did a Bookbub a while ago, and when we eventually do temp free on that, I anticipate a lot of follow through on that too. So Invasion is book 1, Contact is book 2. So in the beginning and end of Invasion, the first book, there's a call to get the sequel for free if you join our list. And if it's got a picture of the book cover, get the sequel free, so they either see it right away, or they just finish Invasion and they get to the cliffhanger and they're like, oh, I want to read the sequel, and here you can get it for free if you join our list. So we're willing to sacrifice the purchase of the second book to get somebody on our list, which is, in our minds, always worth it.
Yeah, and you'll see a lot of authors don't want to do that. They'd always rather go for the sale than the list member. And personally, I think that's a mistake. I certainly understand the short-term want.
Unless you've only got 2 or 3 books.
Yes, but if you're planning on writing a lot more anyway,
and we've all got ayahuasca to access the universal unconscious anyway.
That's true.
I think that building that list is essentially the most important thing you can do as an author, just behind getting out the books. Like, you want to get your books on market for sure. That's number 1. But building the list means that you're not reliant on the vendors as much as you will be otherwise, and that's to me, Prime Directive 2.
Prime Directive 1 is to not interfere with emerging populations. I think the wrong Prime Directive. All right, so then the second technique we do is a variation on the first. This is actually a little odd, and it's mainly done this way for future-proofing reasons. So here's what I mean. We have an offer to get both Invasion and Contact free. And the way that shows up is in one of 2 ways. It's either in the front of other books. So if we did a promotion, we actually have one coming up on the 17th for the Beam. We have a Bookbub ad for the Beam on the 17th. And so we made sure that we optimized that book and put front and back matter. I hope we did this. I really hope we did this. We put
Your dog is arguing in the background, saying, "No, we didn't, you dumbass."
Yeah, I know. Somebody must be here. That's good. Good stuff for the podcasts. So anyway, we put front and back matter in that book to get both Invasion 1 and 2 for free. Now, the reason that we did that is, number 1, it's a compelling offer to get 2 books free instead of 1 to join our list. And you're joining the same list, by the way. It just delivers different books. That's a little nuts and bolts. But we can't just send them to the sequel. Like, that doesn't make any sense. We got to give them the first book. And so we could just give them the first book. We could say just get Invasion free. But then if we ever make Invasion free, we got to go through and change all that.
So which is terrible, right? So one thing, too, is you can always iterate your offer. And so this isn't an offer we could have made 6 months ago or a year.
What if we want to optimize our offer?
Well, this is optimizing the offer as
The
well.
number of times that I've said iterate and optimize in this book, I made a note to Sean. If it's getting too much, cut some of them out.
But you know, we couldn't have done this before. But and if you only, like Dave said, you only have 2 or 3 books, then that's a pretty hard offer to make. You know, fortunately, we're at a place where we have a lot of inventory. We have a lot of books in our library, and we can afford to do that. You know, when we were just starting out, it was a little bit different. So again, really look at yourself and your goals and what you're trying to accomplish, and what you have to offer. And you know, let's say you had you just have the 3 books, but you know that you have, you know, another book coming out soon. Maybe you could offer like a promissory note to give them that book. Like, hey, I know this book isn't out yet, but you know, if you put your name on my list, I'll make sure that you get it for free when it comes out. It won't even be, you know, for sale.
Right, and you can decide how, you know, sort of.
Wait, rewind. Okay, you're
Okay.
saying if you got 2 books out and you got a 3rd book coming out, and you're going to give that away for free too? When the fuck do you start charging money?
No, he's saying that if you didn't want to give away one of the books that you have,
Oh, okay.
you could promise a future. And honestly, a cleaner way to do this is you only have 1 book. You don't have a sequel. So you can promise the sequel. Join my list and I'll send you the sequel free when it's available. That's maybe a cleaner way to put it.
Okay, I missed that. I was reading comments. All
Just
right.
give everything. Never charge for anything.
Ever. Because the starving artist is the hero here.
Right.
Rely on the kindness of strangers forever.
So you, I was just thinking of the Slack that Dave sent us this week. He said, if you think that I'm paranoid and the world is actually a nice place, I won't go into that. Anyway, so we could get really granular and say, okay, so instead of putting the offer for Invasion 1 and 2 in the front of the beam, put offer for Beam Season 2. Like, that's the same thing as always offer the sequel free, but what the fuck? Like, that would be way too much to manage. So we have 3 offers, but I've given you 2 of them right now. Get Contact, that goes in Invasion, and only Invasion, because it's the only one where it makes sense. Get Invasion and Contact, which goes in pretty much everything else.
Everything, yeah.
But then there's actually a 3rd offer, and it's not like you have to do all these things. I'm just giving you our examples of how we've chosen to do it. We actually do have a 3rd offer because if you think about it, Invasion's book 2+, like if we want to put an offer in those books, Get Invasion and Contact free kind of doesn't make sense. So somebody just bought Contact. Get it free. What the fuck? Like, you assholes. I don't want it. You just offered it to me for free and I just paid for it. So, but we want to put an offer in there. And so we have an offer for Get Robot Proletariat Season 1. Now, again, you can only do this if you have a ton of inventory and you don't mind. But we want as many list ads as possible. So we have that. And then we, because we have it, we put Robot Proletariat with things that are a little less aligned with Invasion. So Robot Proletariat is slower. It's more thoughtful. And putting Get Invasion in the front of Axis of Aaron, for instance, which is sort of a literary mindbender, actually isn't as aligned as Robot Proletariat, even though if you've never heard of Robot Proletariat, that may sound weird, but it's a philosophical sort of tale.
That's an accurate statement.
Yeah. So that's the way that we've been building our lists, and then sort of the other way is we've been doing Facebook ads to the one to Get Invasion and Contact. We've been doing get these books free, and so we're just paying, and it ends up being like, I think last I heard from Garrett was like, it ends up being $1 a lead. Something like that, $1 for each person who joins the list.
And it's a little more than that, right? And it's a little more than that because not everybody who joins your list is actually a good lead. You know, some of them will drop off. Some of them will, you know, just not buy. But you got to think that some of those people are going to be consistent readers, and some of them are going to be lifetime readers.
But the first time they buy a $3 book, you've made your money back. Like, let's say it costs you $2 per person. They buy a $3 book, that's around a $2 commission, and you
yeah, it's absolutely a good investment if you are going to be a consistent author who puts, you know, quality stuff out, and you bond with your readers. But you have to think of it as an investment. You know, if you look at, you know, I mean, this is kind of a not really the same, but kind of. If you look at Bookbub, right? They are the they are the power. Like they are anybody publishing right now would love
They
to
do that He-Man thing.
Bookbub. Right, they do. They have the power.
They're the Pablo Escobar of.
They are the Pablo Escobar of email lists for indie books. But they got that. I mean, that didn't happen by accident. They built that list. They spent a substantial amount of money running ads and building that list and thinking that list is going to feed them. And now, they are a money machine, but that didn't happen overnight. That was very strategic on their part to build that list, and it was an investment. And if you believe in yourself and you believe in your quality enough to, invest in yourself in that way, it will pay off in the long term, but you kind of have to be willing to front it. And again, I think I come back to this often because I think it's very true. But a lot of authors don't really treat their writing like a business. And if you were to open any business, you would have to invest a little bit of money. You would have to do first and last month's rent on your retail space, or you have to pay for inventory or whatever it is. And spending $1,000 to build a list that you can then use to sell more books, it does make sense. I know it hurts to hear that for a lot of authors because they're not making any money and they've got to spend money on an edit and a cover and all of this stuff. But if you're treating it like a business and not a hobby, then money has to go out before it comes back in.
Dave, you had some comments?
Yes. Amy Teagan says, I refuse to take blame for any of your nonsense. Thank you, Amy. I'm glad me almost dying is nonsense to you. Thank you. Tom Hinton.
I was wondering what she was referring to because there's so many things that Amy can say that she's not taking blame for. That's our nonsense.
Tom Hinton says, had my first 2,000-word writing hour this morning after reading some of Monica Leonel's Write Better Faster and using you guys' beats process from the Udemy course. I'm all pumped up for us.
Oh, you should get Story Shop. It's even better. I'm always selling.
Awesome, Tom. Congratulations.
Shots of Jameson said, joined at the exact moment someone said anal probing.
Do you think Shots of Jameson is a given name or is that a nickname?
That is a nickname.
Okay.
That's all I got right now that pertains to anything.
All right, so just to hammer this point home, because I think it's really important, your alignment on your offer is really kind of essential to your success. So if you have something, there's an author that we work with, and their offer was really out of alignment. So they had somebody come onto their funnel with the offer of a free book, and then over a pretty short period of time, they gave them a bunch of other books. And the books were kind of all over the place as far as word count and genre, and this wasn't us. This sounds like it
sounds like us. I was going to say, you sure this isn't us?
This wasn't us. But within a very short period of time, I think the onboarding on that was like 10 days or something. They've given the reader like 10 different books. All over the place.
Which sounds just overly generous. How could anyone object?
Right, but it's not overly generous. I mean, it is overly generous, but that's not what the reader is getting. The reader is getting overwhelmed. They're getting confused, and both of those are bad things. So they don't have time to catch up. They don't have time to read all of this stuff. But also, it's out of alignment. They're signing up. They were signing up for fantasy essentially, but then ended up getting a bunch of other offers. And all that tells the reader is, I don't know what this author is about. I don't know what they stand for. I think it's really essential when that person, when you want to attract your ideal reader. So when they come into your funnel and they get your freebie or whatever it is that you're promising them, that follow-up is so important. The way that you communicate with them from day one to say, this is who I am, this is what I stand for, this is how we're similar, we like the same thing. So if you're a sci-fi author, talk about your influences, point them. If you don't have a lot of books in your catalog, then talk about some of the books that were instrumental in making you the writer that you are, and point your readers to those books too, and say, hey, this is the first book that I read that really made a difference in the way that I approach fiction.
I think giving away 10 books or giving away a lot of books, just too many books over too short a time, it almost comes off as desperate. It's like
Please like me.
Right? Yeah, it's like me in high school when I was trying to date girls. They're like, I'm here, and they're like, I know, go away. So you're better off, not being nice. Be a dick. Be a dick in your emails. Hey, fucker, you read that book yet? I don't give a shit.
The CI onboarding has a few books. The Yesterday's Gone, season 1 and 2, and a couple of short stories. But it's over a period of time, and it's a bonding thing. And all of the stories they're not related as in they're in the same world, but they're certainly related as far as tone and feel. And it's almost a bonding exercise.
Despair.
Right. We like to put children in jeopardy. Here's proof.
Current of despair in everything we touch.
So I just think that your communication is what you say to your reader. I think is even more important than what it is you give them, because what you say is your chance to over-deliver. When you give them the thing that you promised, that's your opportunity to fulfill the promise, and that's important. But it's like if you think of that as your first date, the second and third and fourth dates, that's when you're courting them, and you don't want somebody to read your book and be done with you. You want somebody to read your book and be excited about your next book, and hopefully talk to their friends about your next book, and be one of those lifetime readers that looks forward to everything that you're writing. And that doesn't happen by accident, and it certainly doesn't happen just because you have somebody on your list. It's a process, and you're a writer. You should understand that it's communication, and that you're using your ability to articulate to bond with this ideal reader.
And never, ever arrive at a first date naked with a bow wrapped around yourself saying, I'm ready to go.
Oh, is that what I'm doing wrong?
That sounded highly specific, Dave.
Just an example.
Yeah, so let's, just to bring this full circle, the show is, today's show is about product funnels. And it's a little bit of a sideways conversation because we're going down this whole list route, but I just want to, repeat that the whole point here is that you're creating your own product funnel. So we actually are still using free books. We're just using them in a different way. And anything where you have is Dave doing deep squats over there? I just see the top of his.
I was taking a break, you bastard.
Oh, okay. So I'm
not going to stand for 3 hours. Sorry.
All right. So the whole point is you are still using the same basic strategy, which is use something where you have a lot of. You can toss a lot of people in the top of your funnel, and then in this case, you're using that to bring people into your home field like that. Now, once they're on your email list, that can be the rest of your funnel. So the way that we've done this is we have, and I won't go through our whole autoresponder scheme. There is a when I say scheme, I mean like schematic. I don't mean like it's a scheme.
You should twirl a mustache.
Dave's now giggling back there about our autoresponder scheme. I like how I keep making him get up too.
Scheme, you fuck.
Pretty great. So
I'm sitting down. Don't mention my name again for the next hour.
You can just wave next time. So the point is that we have autoresponders, which are just automated follow-up messages. If you're not familiar with that, basically do a lot of the introduction that Sean was talking about, and then eventually some selling. We can catch people up to speed with our autoresponders, and then begin to say, hey, you may have joined this list for Invasion, but you might also like the Beam, and then everybody gets a pitch for the Beam. Or just take them on a tour of our product catalog where they may find something else that they're interested in.
There's an important point here too. So right now, we had a story meeting yesterday for our story Devil May Care, which is the spiritual successor to Axis of Aaron. And we've said a few times on the show that Axis sells less in an hour than Invasion, or less in a month than Invasion does in an hour.
So hey, let's write another one.
Now Dave is talking, just so you guys know.
He's disembodied.
Right. He must have taken the microphone, so he's now sitting down and holding it. But the visual is you just see the top of Dave's head, but you can hear his voice. It's great.
So yeah, we have every intention of writing another one. And we always talk about knowing your why, and I think that's really important too, is to know the reason that you're writing something, because everything is different. We did write Invasion to be a commercial property. That's not why we wrote Axis. We wrote Axis because that was the truer artist in us, and we wanted to write something literary, and it made us very happy. And we're doing that again. We had our Invasion this year. It's done very well, but that doesn't mean that's all we want to write. So when we sat down for Devil and we said, okay, why are we writing this? What's our number one goal? And the only goal was it needs to be better than Axis. So having said that, I think we can afford to write books like this more because we're smart about how we do our autoresponders. And if you get the right autoresponder in play and you have your funnel, then at some point you can always lead readers to your old stuff that's your favorite, that maybe it gets lost in the algorithms, maybe it's not very commercial, maybe it doesn't sell on its own, but you can always lead readers to it. You can always explain to them why it's a gem, why it means something to you, and why they might like it. And so we're pretty confident that Devil doesn't have to sell a ton of copies when it's new. We can always take the time to write it now, write a story that we love, and over time lead our readers to it.
Right, it gives a permanence to your work. And then, of course, you can sell when there are new releases. Like you can. We have Annihilation is coming out, I think, on the 24th of November, and our list will get an email about that. And it's because we did the list building, and they're essentially in our funnel. So just a different way to look at funnels. Anyway, we do have you can search for shows on list, other things on list building and other things on autoresponders, but that's the way that we see funnels today. So there you go. So I guess we'll draw to a close at this point, I guess. I'm rusty. It's been 3 weeks.
Yeah, well, Dave's been done with us for 10 minutes. So.
I tuned out 10 minutes ago.
He did. He's standing again, guys, just so you know, on the audio feed. I wonder if there's a difference. Can somebody email in and let us know if there's a difference in sound between standing Dave and sitting Dave? Because I can't hear it.
I can't hear it. But I do know that it's hard to keep Dave's attention under the best of circumstances. We start talking funnels and autoresponders, and we get the ghost of Dave. That's it.
Ghost of Dave.
If you could see me, you would see the top of my head is sleeping on my desk.
It was fantastic. All right, so we'll be done. Do stay tuned next week and by next week, I mean if you're live, it's literally in 5 minutes. But if you're listening on the feed, next week's episode will be with Seth Atwood. We're going to talk about Story Shop. Just a reminder again, I'll give you the links again, and Audra will probably repeat them, so it'll be great. sterlingandstone.net/Story Shop preview if you want to see our mock-ups and the video basically. And if you just want to keep apprised of Story Shop, it's sterlingandstone.net/Story Shop, and it does debut on Kickstarter on Monday, October 19th, and super excited about that. It'll only be up for 2 weeks. So good stuff. All right, so see you next week, folks. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Peace out.
All right, so circle around. See you in just a minute.
Yep.
All right, we're still live.
Oh, yeah, hey.
Hey,
Forget about you guys out there. All right.